There's this distinct phrase that most high school graduates remember from health class. Depression is a chemical imbalance in the brain. It's neat information, really, but it's a gross oversimplification of what depression really is and how it affects people. The National Institute of Mental Health states that major depression affects close to 10% of the population. To put that number into perspective, in this auditorium, you would be able to fit maybe the entire first row or more with people who have depression. Depression often ends up hitting people like a bus. As the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration describes depression as presenting with sometimes crippling symptoms. Living with depression isn't solved simply through just medication and therapy. It requires recognizing that one has it and successfully being able to adapt and practice self-care to learn how to live well with depression. The National Institute of Mental Health lists a plethora of symptoms for depression, such as always feeling sad, hopeless, frustrated, worthless, tired, experiencing a change in appetite, or not getting pleasure out of activities that you previously enjoyed. It's very easy to get lost in the sea of definitions and manifestations that depression can take. My inspiration for this talk came from my own experiences with depression. I started noticing this dull filter over everything, and things that I would previously enjoy became mundane. It's a very strange feeling to have. The best way I can describe it, it's that feeling when you're a kid and you're messing around with a sibling or a friend and end up doing something bad like breaking something. And you just hear the words, "Just wait till your parents get home." Everything around you sinks. You can't concentrate on anything because all you can think about is how in a few hours you'll be in so much trouble. But eventually, when your parents do get home, that feeling goes away as the anticipation is over and whatever resolution there is, the resolution is concrete. Depression is similar to that feeling. The main difference being that your parents never do come home. You are stuck in that sinking feeling, waiting for something, because a lot of times there is no concrete resolution in sight. The sad truth for a lot of people with depression is that the only resolution they can see is suicide. The National Center for Health Statistics shows that the suicide rates have been increasing steadily for the past 30 years. Peaking in 2018 with an average of 14.2 suicides per 100,000 people across both genders. That's a very high mortality rate for just a chemical imbalance. The two most common solutions people think of for depression are medication and therapy. And that's not some misconception. They are really good treatments. According to the Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance, quote, up to 80% of those treated with depression show an improvement in their symptoms, generally within 4 to 6 weeks of beginning medication, psychotherapy, attending support groups, or a combination of these treatments. When it comes to medication, it's not as simple as just popping a pill and all your problems are fixed. Antidepressants can take a while to find the right combination, due to the long period of time it takes for the effects to kick in, possible side effects, and changes in the dosage. Just like you wouldn't give someone with a cold morphine, different types of depression require different medications, and figuring out what type of depression you have can be a hassle all on its own. And if somehow you are a master gambler and land on the perfect combination on the very first try, antidepressants take 4 to 8 weeks to kick into effect. In the meantime, the house always wins. Not only that, but antidepressants can have their own side effects. The National Institute of Mental Health actually states that, quote, in some cases, teenagers and young adults under 25 years of age may experience an increase in suicidal thoughts or behavior when taking antidepressants. The yin to the yang of medication is therapy, which comes with its own challenges. For some people, finding a therapist they click with can take time, and therapy can be scary going in for the first time. Going into that office with mental health magazines splayed out in the reception and then being expected to list out all of your problems to someone you just met minutes ago, only for them to judge you and tell you how you're being totally irrational. And why did you even bother coming? You're probably just fine. You should just stay home and binge all 19 seasons of MasterChef because you're probably just fine. And maybe that creme brulee will make you feel better. I might have taken some creative liberties with that last section, but you get the idea. It's scary. And it's unfortunate that it's such a scary experience because for most people, it can be very helpful having someone to guide you and teach you new ways of thinking and navigating through life. It's also just nice to be able to talk things out. The common denominator for both of these treatments are that they are reactive, not proactive. Like seeing a net under a roller coaster at an amusement park and wondering what on earth happened there. Obviously, someone shouldn't take medication before getting diagnosed with any condition. That's wrong on many levels. But what if there is a preventative measure? What if there is a way for people to not feel so lost, desolate, desperate, and understand that even if your parents don't come home, it's perfectly fine, and you don't have to be stuck in that sinking feeling. This is where the idea of recognition manifests itself. Just being able to recognize the existence of a problem allows people to not necessarily solve that problem, but learn to live with it. We've all felt some kind of insecurity at some point. For me, I was insecure about my height for a while. And even though I could spend over $100,000 on limb lengthening surgery to grow a whole 2 inches taller, that feels a bit extreme. Instead, I learned to live with it. I knew there was nothing I could do, and instead of leaning on the hypothetical of what could have been, I accepted the truth and thought about the positives instead. Granted, there really aren't any positives to depression, but this thought process of not lingering on the hypothetical and just living with the truth is helpful. When we are given a problem as people, our first instinct is to try to solve this problem. But when given a problem such as depression, it's not as simple of a problem to solve. Aside from the medication and therapy as solutions, the most important part of trying to solve your depression is you. The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration lists self-care as one of the best ways to manage the symptoms of depression. Managing stress with meditation, trying to stay physically active and healthy, getting good sleep are all things that are proven in helping making people feel better. At the start of my sophomore year, I had a schedule that was way too challenging for me, and it stressed me out. And I made the decision to lighten my schedule. And while it was sad to think that some classes were too much for me, I realized that it wasn't worth it to sacrifice my mental health for academic success. Another way to boost someone's motivation and confidence is to set achievable goals for yourself. Personally, I always liked having something to look forward to, whether it was seeing friends or traveling. Knowing that I had something to look forward to was just nice. And with a goal as complex and frankly difficult as stop feeling depressed, it's easy to feel like you're making no progress for yourself. It's essential to feel motivated, because if you don't have any motivation, you lose the drive to do anything, since it all feels like no progress is being made. By setting goals that you can achieve, you actually feel like you're making some progress. And that little bit might just be enough to stay motivated. And while it's obvious that nobody wants to be depressed for the rest of their lives, just because someone has depression doesn't mean that they're a hostage to it. They can still make meaningful steps even with depression. With all the advice on preparing and living well with depression, it's a lot easier to hear the advice than to apply the advice. Personally, I find it inspiring to know that it's not some divine punishment placed on your soul. It's something that a lot of people go through. The following quote comes from the most powerful and influential people in today's world, The Rock. Quote, "It's helpful to remember that you're not alone. You're not the first to go through it, and you won't be the last." The Rock's name and image is as a symbol of strength and power, and even he admits that it takes a lot of strength to ask for help. Not physical strength, but emotional strength. Another famous celebrity who has gone on record about their depression is Jim Carrey, who says that the word depressed should be thought of as deep rest, because your body needs a deep rest from the character you've been trying to play. It's a foggy and scary world to navigate, but simply knowing how to help and take care of yourself, then it doesn't have to be so scary. Thank you.